Welcome, everyone. It's good to be with you again. For those who don't know me yet, my name is Jarek. I'm the co-CEO of Revenue Capital. Together, I'll be addressing approximately 30 questions I received from you regarding what's up. I'm not going to answer those questions in the order as they were coming, so I've done some qualifications here. So I merged a few questions. I highlighted those who are being repeated the most, assuming that these are probably the ones you'd like to have answers in the first place. So without any further delays, okay, let me just start this AMA with the first question. And as expected, actually from my end, you are asking about the voting panel. So the question regards when we can expect the voting panel to be released. And then it sounds crucial. The quicker we get to decide which startups can benefit from our support system, the faster it will accelerate value of RVC, since up to 10% of their revenue will go into buyback and burn. Is that correct? Yes, it's absolutely correct. And I agree with the thesis being presented here, which says that it is crucial, or it should be crucial. Yes, it's actually crucial. I agree. We've been having a development meeting a couple of hours ago, in fact, just to confirm the developments on that front. So we expect that the voting panel will be released together with the first project being there, and it will be released to you. So you could, first of all, start getting familiar with the voting process, as it is going to be the process. It's going to require a couple of steps, some small preparation from your end to be actively taking part. So there's the educational element involved, and we'd like to give you some time to prepare yourself for that as well, plus the voting itself. So everything should be ready by 15th of March. So in 2 weeks, approximately, we expect to have everything up and running. Now, the process itself, the preparatory process, so the one I mentioned, getting familiar with the voting process, getting familiar with the steps you should do before voting takes place. So kind of to register your presence, log the tokens required to allow you to vote, ins and outs, how it works. For this, we plan to have approximately 3 days. So I'm going to give you 3 days after the release, obviously with the proper information provided from our end, how it works and what you should do. So this 3 days should give you time to make yourself familiar with the process. The voting itself should take 2 days. So we're giving you 1 working week, which is 5 days for everything, basically, for preparing yourself for voting and for voting itself. With the release of the panel, what we're going to do, we're going to announce beforehand, obviously, the projects which are there. So the information about the projects being on the panel are going to be communicated to you on multiple channels. So obviously the first channel is the voting platform itself. You will find this information provided there using the already mentioned RAG system, red, amber, green. So we have 11 sections we use to, or 11 criteria, I should say, we use to describe the projects which we're going to recommend to you. And those criteria are going to have those 3 colors, red, amber, green, to simply express the level of maturity within each of those criteria. So we'll use it in order to provide you information about the provided projects in a quick visual way, which is easy to digest, easy to process. But there will be a much more in-depth information available as well. So there will be a proper description of the project with some links. We are going to record interviews with the founding teams, so that you have the first-hand feeling who these guys are, how they present themselves, what's the kind of dynamics or the feeling you might have about the dynamics they represent, like within the team. So this information will be available. The videos will be available on our YouTube channel. Will be open to discussion as well regarding those projects after announcing them on our Telegram groups. So you can obviously expect us to be present there to provide you with the details you think require further explanation. So we plan to be fully transparent about the scope of our choices, the reasoning behind obviously those projects being there, and so on and so forth. Answering a couple of other questions related to this one. So what projects are we talking about? How many of them we already have? And how many projects will be available on this voting platform, on the voting panel at once? So just to be precise, right now we have 2 projects which we are quite comfortable with, which we can easily recommend to you. Potentially we'll be having the 3rd one. We'll see about that, but those 2 strong projects should be the first ones available on the voting platform, so that you could start expressing your support towards them. The voting will be arranged in the way not disqualifying any of those 2. You are supposed to present your support or provide your support to any of those, meaning that there will be no winners and losers, in the sense that the project is either supported or not. I mean, a critical mass of votes provided on behalf of the certain project would be a sign for us that this is the project the community is supporting. The community will keep supporting, obviously, over not only the funding process, but later on the sort of the period within which this project is included in our ecosystem. So we plan to very much involve you, every single one of you, into actively supporting this project on the ongoing basis, supporting it in various ways. We'll be working with those selected and funded projects to make sure that they have enough ammunition, enough ideas for the community involvement. And we can already tell that those 2 projects we have in mind, they are no short on those ideas. So we're talking about the scope of the community involvement ranging from testing the further product market fit adjustments, being able to provide some market related information, taking active part in answering questions, in providing feedback over surveys, taking part in various promotional actions, including bounty hunting activities, airdrops, contests, and so on and so forth. So we plan our community to play a crucial role in the further development of those projects. Obviously, there are certain development roadmaps we expect from every single one of them, so that we know exactly where our funding is going, how these projects are going to perform against those roadmaps. So there will be certain touch points over there, certain objectives having KPIs, metrics introduced over those touch points, so that we know how the project performs at a certain period of time, when this touch points, when those objectives are supposed to be met, so that we are, without necessarily steering those projects from the backseat, so to speak, but what we know, what is happening, we are informed. So that's long story short, that's the process we plan to put in place in terms of this project's performing. So it's coming. I'm obviously quite excited regarding this. You might ask, okay, why has it been taking so long? So that's you have to wait until now for all this to keep happening. And this is the question related also to, I saw this question somewhere here related to our roadmap. So what we are currently doing and what our team is mostly involved with, what activities we consider being the key ones. So when developing the voting platform and when basically rethinking the whole concept of the community and your role, not only your role in terms of selecting or providing us with your assistance in selecting those projects which are going to be highlighted on the platform. We thought about the ways of keeping you actively engaged, like I said before, not only in the lifetime cycle of those selected projects, but also in our further actions. By further actions, I mean any actions related to providing our tokens with additional utility. So voting, decision making, providing support, providing feedback, these are all features which are quite important for us. And we like this voting panel, which is currently being prepared to basically play all of those roles. So apart from just voting for the project, which in your opinion should be funded by us, we'd like this whole panel to be extended towards playing all those mentioned roles. So so that the voting and the decision making can go way beyond the projects themselves, but also to support us in decision making on the sort of other activities and other aspects as well. Just to give an idea, so what I mean by other aspects. Speaking about selecting projects, we are thinking to involve you in screening those projects, so that the screening process could be done by those willing from you, and assuming that your skill sets, your sort of level of interest and time would allow you to be involved in this process. Also, we'd like you to be exposed to the further utilities we plan to develop for the token itself. Utilities involved at one hand in involved with or related to your involvement in the certain activities, and those activities might be related to the further recommendations of the projects which should be involved in the in building the pipeline of the projects to be eventually shortlisted and selected. It might be involved, apart from those recommendations and screening, to providing feedback to the certain actions performed by those selected projects. So what I mentioned before, it might have the form of surveys, it might have the form of contests. Obviously, we'd like you to be properly rewarded for that, so that there are certain incentives for you to keep being active and to reward those staying active on the consistent and continuous basis. So once again, this voting panel is supposed to hold all those functionalities and also to have the backend prepared to keep developing on those ideas, on those developments. So that's why developing it has been taking, unfortunately, a little bit longer. However, fortunately, like I say, it will not be restricted just to the basic functionality, but will just grab this opportunity and take us much further than that. So I believe I answered this question plus a couple of more, also related to the other question I wanted to answer, which I believe is partially answered. So the question is like what we are currently focused on. And just to read maybe a bit on where this question is taking us. So what are the next steps in our project, what we are currently mostly focused on, and are our actions related to trying to find suitable partners and startups. Maybe it's marketing, maybe further development of the website, or is it ongoing search for new investors? Obviously, I mean, it's a little bit of everything, but the question is precise, like, where our focus is. And, relating the answer to this question to what I already said, the absolute core of everything what we do right now is to make sure that, first of all, we have good projects selected. Second of all, you can be properly exposed to these projects in order to recommend them. Recommend them by voting for them, by giving us a clear sign of support that these are the projects you think are exciting, are innovative enough so that we should be seriously considering funding them and supporting. And like I said before, I cannot stress enough that the importance of you providing support for this project, not for the sake of just fulfilling our initial promise that, we are empowering you and we're giving you some voting power here, and that's it. This support is supposed to be ongoing, not just ongoing in the sense that there will be ongoing list of shortlisted projects which you should support and you should vote for, but and there will be an ongoing list of activities those projects will be either promoting or putting up, or we will be simply setting up those activities with involvement of those projects. And for all these activities, we need your support. And we believe that your support can be substantial and genuine only for the projects which you will initially highlight as those which are exciting and you feel like they're being worth your support. So this voting process is extremely important also for the sake of sending us the message which of those projects will be can count on your continuous support, and that's something what we are going to obviously respect and seriously take into account. So yes, very long answer to this question, what we are currently focused on, but obviously there are other things ongoing. So behind the scenes, obviously you could see we've been recently both in Dubai and in Switzerland, and it's very much related to looking for proper partners. By proper partners, I mean those who are going to support us on multiple fronts. So first of all, the marketing front, but especially the front related to providing us with a good deal flow. By good deal flow, I mean good projects, the ones which we should, keep considering for the lower part of our pipeline. So the ones which are supposed to be shortlisted, exposed to you, and eventually voted for. So maybe I'll keep repeating myself here, but the sources of those projects are obviously not coming from one place. So I keep mentioning the platform called F6S, which is the sort of a focal point of all projects coming to us. I mean, they are going through this platform where we set up a kind of a landing page for them where they fill in the formula, they answer the bunch of questions which allow us to classify those projects as, well, either being interested to follow up with or perhaps parking for now and maybe coming back later. So these projects are landing there obviously organically through the marketing effort, but we want to be very, very active also on this front. And that's why we also need relevant partners and relevant partnerships built to support this deal flow making process. This means talking to various venture capital funds, accelerators, startup accelerators, startup incubators, various institutions supporting startups in many different ways. Financially, okay, I already mentioned that, but also systemically. By these partners, I mean they're mostly government partners or local municipality partners providing spaces, providing different benefits for the startups, locating or setting up shops within their premises. So in Dubai, we've been talking to the whole bunch of VCs, mostly VCs, as that event was targeting the most important players in the region, plus a couple of free economic zones and the governing bodies of those zones. So we've been talking to them in Dubai, in Switzerland. We focused on both sides, so the VCs, the capital providers, but also the accelerators and the incubators. So namely, we've been talking to CVDC, CV Labs. We've been talking to a couple of other projects, with this one being probably the most prominent. We've been talking to the representatives of 4 different cantons, trying to understand, what are the chances and also what are the benefits they currently provide and they will be providing on the ongoing basis, and how the concentration of those good projects is supposed to progress in the coming period. So obviously we visited the famous Valley of Zug, and in other words, the crypto Valley of Zug. We visited the canton of Zurich. We visited canton of Schwyz. We were visited by the representatives of the canton of Ticino, and they all talked to us about the projects which are currently being developed over there and the various initiatives. We've been also talking to the either founders or the owners of those initiatives and projects, to give us a pretty good understanding what we can expect from them in the future, how we can also fit in this ecosystem in the best possible way. So you probably can figure out already, like Dubai at one hand, Switzerland at the other, in terms of jurisdictions, in terms of ecosystems, like, where our focus currently goes. So it's both the Middle East, the GCC area, and Europe. Switzerland is probably, I mentioned the word focal point. So in this respect, there's a focal point of the blockchain projects coming in from both Eastern and Western Europe. That's why the choice of Switzerland, also because, not only because of the prominence of the jurisdiction, also because of the robustness of their legal framework. So that's why we kind of consider those 2 locations quite interesting. Dubai is interesting also because of their crypto friendliness. Crypto friendliness in the sense that Dubai currently actively works on attracting crypto projects, blockchain projects, also by concentrating them in the couple of free zones located there, giving them extra benefits, and being regulatory friendly towards them. That's why it's also quite an interesting area for us to be. Not mentioning geography, obviously, the geography being, in the case of Dubai, quite interesting, as they keep attracting startups from both Asia and Europe. Some African projects also. We met actually a couple of projects from Nigeria and South Africa over there as well, which is proving that also the African projects tend to look at Dubai as the bridge between their continent and both East and West. So again, that's what we do. That's where we try to be. There's a continuous marketing effort with some improvements on this site, which I hope you're going to see fairly soon. By this improvements, I mean we are looking at improving the team capabilities, the team capabilities involved in marketing directly. So this should translate into more frequent communication from our end, more frequent messaging, also more interesting visually. More details will be coming soon regarding this, so I won't be saying too much about it right now, if you don't mind. So yeah, these are basically the directions and the areas of development. Obviously, I mentioned the voting platform, so there's also an ongoing development effort on the technical front. Okay, so the next question, very relevant as well, as I think you're all thinking about the price. What is going on with RDC? What is going on now with all those listings, and what's going to happen with the price? Why this price is low right now? When it's going to go up, and so on and so forth. So the question is, nowadays more and more people is convinced that the market is in the bear phase. How do you plan to attract investors in such hard time? Do you think you collect enough resources to sustain in the market, the next bull market? Now, is it really a bull market or bear market? I will refrain from commenting on that maybe, but basically the message to all of you worried about the current stage when it comes to our listing price. Maybe it's controversial, okay? But I'm not going to say I'm not worried. I'm worried because mostly of the sort of PR and the visibility aspect of that. I'm absolutely not worried, when it comes to the fundamentals of this project and what or how these fundamentals are affected by the current price. I'm not worried because I know that the current price doesn't really doesn't represent how our token economics works or should work. The reason is it hasn't started yet. As the first question was rightfully pointing to, everything will start with the first projects being put in place and them generating revenues, and those revenues being used for the buyback process and eventually, burning 50% of the bought back tokens. We are weeks away right now from having those projects on board, probably a couple of months away from the first buybacks being generated by those specific projects. Obviously, I'm excited to see, what this means particularly to the prices. Price is going to be what's the proper word for that? Like magnifying glass a little bit of all the expectations and the impressions the community would get from this process. So when the process starts and we start seeing the first positive effects of that with the price of the token, this means that not only, and of course, the dynamics of this process would show us what is the impression of the of you guys, of the community, of the investors, of the success, of the initial success of this process. It's hard to say what the current price represents. I mean, it represents the fact that the process hasn't started yet, obviously. However, I want to highlight the fact that those who are worried, like that something wrong is going on with the project, please bear with me over here, and trust me that this few weeks will start bringing some answers. We'll start having those answers with the first projects being put in place and working for the benefit of the token economics. Before this happens, it's really difficult to speculate. Like, all I say is me saying things rather than the process, the token economics proving what's been already promised. So let's please wait those few weeks to wait for this process to be kickstarted, and later a few more weeks to eventually see the effects of that. That's my message to all of you who are currently worried that something wrong is happening here. On the personal level, half joking obviously, but it's probably good that the price is low. As you know, it creates an opportunity for those who are here long term and who'd like to take advantage of the process I just mentioned to eventually starting. It's probably a good moment to keep buying the tokens now to kind of increase your exposure to that. That's what I'm going to do, at least. But on the honest side, obviously, yes, we don't ignore the price. We are working towards the price to be eventually stimulated and to express, so that it can express the real value of this project. The roadmap. It's another question. Maybe I'm not going to read it, but basically there are quite a few of you pointing out to the fact that we keep exposing the old roadmap on our website right now, and that it's not really kind of potentially not fitting in, to what is currently happening. It's true. It's true there are actually changes which we plan to introduce in respect to the website, in respect to the information provided on the website, which is supposed to be more oriented towards the current activities. So not really fundraising, which has been completed with the end of the last year. So the new website is going to have the new roadmap there as well. We are starting on this process. So we've decided on the new graphic elements. We are deciding on the content, including the roadmap earlier this week, and those last days we've been actually discussing the last touches on the roadmap, which is going to be put in place this year. Doesn't represent necessarily any changes to the roadmap which you currently see. All I'm talking about is the precision. So precisely providing you with more information and more details, like what specific projects are going to be put in place. What does it mean for the community? So for those of you who joined maybe later, over the first question, I was talking about the certain functionalities of the voting platform, which we plan to put in place. Also, how much it's going to improve the token utility or utilities, or the utility properties, if you wish. So all this is going to be expressed on the roadmap, and you're going to see this roadmap on the website, obviously. I expect that the changes over there will be done by the end of this month, but you should start seeing this process. It's going to be an ongoing process, so you should start seeing the first effect of it in the coming couple of weeks. Okay. There's a question related to smart contract security, but also any sort of audits. Our current development work is going to be exposed to, and as a matter of fact, we've had a development meeting not so long ago. I already mentioned about And over this meeting, we mentioned the importance of an audit. So the original smart contract obviously was audited by CERTIC. We've done the ongoing maintenance of the smart contract since then, including the farming and staking solutions, since we plan to keep working on that. So we're going to keep working on the voting platform, but also in respect of the further improvements of staking and farming. This work is going to be audited as well. So we're not abandoning audits and double checking of the code. And we're going to be clear about that as well. So once you will be seeing those solutions eventually put in place, we'll be informing you about the audits and the auditing processes put in place there as well. Let me have a look what other answers I can address. Okay, it's a long question, so maybe I'm not going to read all of it, but basically the question is related to us eventually, our idea of standing out from the crowd of those 9,900 crypto tokens being out there, so that we don't drown in the crowd, and that eventually we could somehow sell our concepts in a more effective way and be more visible. Everything boils down to marketing, obviously, but in order to have a good marketing, we should have a good message, we should have a good story. So what the story is about. And I would say, yes, I mean, the story you've kept hearing probably already on and on, like the token economics and the whole concept of involving the revenues of our portfolio companies to pump up the value of the price of the token itself. But once again, I'll get back to my first question, or the answer I gave to the first question. The power of the community. We have a substantial community thanks to you guys, and this is something what is not happening to every project. This is something what is not happening at this stage, and we should definitely take a more advantage of the fact that we have you. And if you look at this from our partners' perspective, so I'm now talking about VCs, I'm talking about those startup aggregators. Very few of them, very few of them offer this community building aspect, and this is this unique sales advantage, or the unique advantage we're going to give to every single project, but also every single investor taking advantage of us eventually bringing in good projects, so that this community aspect is visible and it's giving real value. So I'll say very quickly once again, the ability of us involving the community in the ongoing operations of the companies we'll be having in our ecosystem, we'll be having in our portfolio is an absolute priority. First of all, it keeps you involved and exposed to what you do, so that you have the first-hand information and the first-hand exposure to what is going on, like within our ecosystem. But it also brings a tremendous value to those projects to be able to take advantage of your involvement, your active involvement. The more we do towards stimulating this, the more tools we'll give to the both sides, the better this process is going to translate into the value, and this value eventually being represented by the price of our token. So that's how we want to stand out. That's how we want to compete. That's the message we want to send to both sides, the investors and the projects we want to bring into to our ecosystem. Okay, let me just go through a couple of more questions here. I'm just checking the time as well, how much time we have left. Okay. A lot of questions about the roadmap, a lot of questions about the current price, obviously. The killer features of our project. So again, the community aspect and the fact how we want to harness the community we have for the benefit of both investors and the project. I answered to a similar question already, but perhaps, for the sake of those joining late, how many projects will be having on the voting panel and when the voting can be expected. So I mentioned at the very beginning that we plan to have the voting platform plus the first projects being present on this platform by 15th of March with the proper information about the projects, also exposing, also giving you an idea about who those teams behind these projects are through the videos we're going to record with them. There will be the bunch of interviews we want to perform with the project founders. Right now, I can comfortably say that there will be 2 projects being announced, being present for voting. And since this I haven't mentioned, so let me say it now. There are no batches, let's say groups of projects will be waiting for to keep announcing them, to keep introducing them to you. So you can expect from the moment when the voting platform is ready, you can expect to have a steady inflow of those shortlisted projects provided to you for voting, for your opinion. So we don't necessarily expect like very long gaps in between those voting processes. Obviously, again, I'm repeating myself, so apologies, for those who have had this message already before, maybe more than once. But apart from voting for the projects, there will be a whole bunch of other activities will be keeping you engaged with. So there will be a constant inflow of not only projects but activities you could do for which you'll be rewarded, obviously, accordingly. So 2 projects at the beginning, with more projects hopefully coming shortly after. If you ask me, like, okay, what combinations of this project votings you can expect, so how many projects would be in the sort of next phase, and then when this next phase would happen, I would say a couple of more weeks after. What combinations? I mean, we can have, I wouldn't like to introduce too many projects at once, to be honest. I would rather prefer to kind of split those incoming projects in a couple of batches. So I would say I don't expect more than 5 projects being voted for at once. At the same time, we can also introduce you, like, if we feel that there's like this really exciting project which is there and it's ready, there's no reason to wait for yet another project to be found and shortlisted. We could also introduce you to this one and only one project on the voting platform as soon as it comes up. So this way, we won't create any bottlenecks. We won't be stalling the negotiation processes with those good projects. Again, this is supposed to be done on the ongoing basis. How many companies in revenue ecosystem do you plan probably to have or to fund by the end of 2022? A rough guesstimation, I would say around 10. We might be correcting these numbers, obviously, as we go. So more precise information most likely can be expected around mid this year. But for now, I can comfortably say that we most likely expect to have around 10 projects by the end of this year. Okay. Yet another question touching on the point I already answered, to be honest, but let me read the question just to stress out the importance of this. The question is, do you consider community feedback / requests during the creation process to expand on new ideas for your project? Many projects fail because they do not understand the target audience and customers. So I want to know who is the ideal consumer for your product. And I understand this question is basically referring to the knowledge of community and involving community, meaning you more in cases of the new projects and initiatives done on our end related to creating more utility properties for the token, apart from the fact, obviously, that there will be the ongoing inflow of deal flow of the project shortlisted for funding. So this is sort of yet another question which is stressing out the importance of involving you and allowing you to work hand in hand with us on that. Obviously, we are working towards that quite actively. Referring to the number of followers, and again, like what does it really mean? You know, how these numbers are currently developing. I expect a much higher number of people being actively involved when, first of all, the voting panel is put in place, allowing us to introduce you to the several activities, decision-making or support-making activities we'll be expecting our community to be involved in. And that's something what we are cooking for you. Now, does it going to automatically translate into the increased number of followers? I mean, obviously, I hope so. However, I can firmly say that my main interest right now is to keep involved, to keep engaged, and to keep deriving as much value as possible from those of you who have been already showing us the consistent support and who are here with us for the long term. That's the target group, the absolute number one target group when it comes to all community-related actions we are doing. So we are doing what we're doing in terms of community with a deep sort of respect of those of you who are with us for a long term already, or with the intention to stay long term. To stay because of the nature of this project, to stay because of the belief you have in it. And that's something, obviously, we don't only want to respect, but we want to build on top of that. So we believe that those of you who understand the nature of the project and its long-term effect are also going to be happy with and are also going to embrace the growing opportunities of having your visible footprint on our actions by actively being involved and actively being able to provide us with the guidance. So that's what I can say about it. And I hope, obviously, that as a side effect, this will translate into providing a growing number of investors and followers meaning people who will be revolving around the project simply by a pure interest of what's going on, how does it work, what is in there for them, and so on and so forth. So that's the level of importance and the grading I'd like to put here, I'd like to stress out. Let me try to answer a couple of more questions here. I don't want to make it too long, also not to make it too exhausting, for those of you who are here with me from the beginning. So let me try to pick up a couple of more questions I could address. Okay, there is a question related to a mobile application we can possibly have built on top of what we already have. Is it something what we already have planned? Is it something what we're going to put on the roadmap? I would say yes. I mean, we're thinking about it, but honestly, it's not our sort of core interest right now. It is not something what we are currently working on. So all developments exposed to you. So the platform, the voting platform, obviously it's going to be fully responsive. It's going to be designed also keeping in mind mobile phone users, especially mobile phone users, to be honest. So don't worry. I mean, those of you who are concerned that we are not thinking mobile, we actually are, not necessarily through the mobile app immediately, but something what is a more, I think, desired and doable and needed especially is to give you access to those functionalities through the web app, through the in-browser accessibility. So that's what we are focused on right now. I cannot find any specific question related to this. I remember questions related to listings being present here. Again, I'm not able to find any specific question right now, but maybe let me address this as well, because that's something what we've been communicating to you quite often before. That's been also representing quite sort of a high level of effort we've been involved to. So probably many of you might be asking, okay, what's going on now when it comes to the listing, when any of the next steps are going to be made, and what's generally happening here. So we've done a few, obviously, listings on the centralized exchanges in the last weeks. The reason why this is not representing the core effort right now, so why other efforts are having the priority over listing right now, and this effort, to be specific again, is to build the deal flow, to finish introducing the voting panel, and eventually to go through the first funding round, so that we have the token economics working. We have delivered what we promised being put in place in the first place, which is going to later on eventually going to be compensated by additional exposure over yet another exchange. Not the other way around, not putting us or listing us on yet another exchange, hoping that any follow-up effort is eventually going to somehow contribute to the sort of growing or pumping up the listing price and so on and so forth. So as some of you probably already noticed, not probably, please let me remove the probably sort of word from here. Some of you noticed that already, and quite a few of you has already commented on that on our Telegram channels. There is a certain way of doing marketing here, and marketing obviously can take us as far as, but that's not what we're here for. I mean, we're here for recruiting those projects, creating the community, creating the ecosystem, and building on top of that. So that's what we believe needs to happen in this particular order. potentially, again, any other action which we perform should be provided as a clear support of this ecosystem building effort, including the listing, including the next steps related to the listing. So we've done, I believe, a lot already in terms of providing us with the exposure. Also, when it comes to talking to the top exchanges, and I can assure you that we are more than ready when it comes to being listed on those top exchanges. But we need to do more than that. We need to, first of all, have a proper care when it comes to starting up the token economics and making sure that it's having a clear, the evidence of this is clearly expressed in the price trend. Then we can start talking about giving our project additional boost and additional exposure on the further exchanges. That's sort of my statement and my opinion related to that. Okay, it's been 1 hour since we started. As promised, I don't want to make it too exhausting, so I will stop here. Obviously, if there are any other questions, please keep asking them and putting them on our groups. We'll make sure that they're answered. Thank you very much for being with us, for asking those questions, for showing the interest, for showing concern. Like I always say, we're here for you, and thanks to you, and we keep this deeply in mind. Like I already said, also in terms of us working towards creating solutions with your involvement and for your benefit. So please bear with us when it comes to putting them in place and eventually involving you in these activities and making them a success. Thank you very much. It's an honor to talk to you, as always. We'll keep doing this. This is definitely not the last AMA. It's just the beginning. So exciting times coming in terms of the first project being introduced and the voting panel being introduced. We'll keep being active when it comes to introducing those projects, and we'll keep being open to your questions related to them. And obviously, we'll do our best to address all the questions and on all the issues you'll be bringing in when it comes to when it comes to the voting process. Okay. Thank you very much. I'll see you over the next time. Bye bye.